Hello and welcome back to this third part of this series of Goal agent programming tutorials. In this part I'll show you a little bit more complicated example which can illustrate some of the debugging features that the Goal plugin provides. So we'll go and create an example project, and the first one, BW4T, which stands for Block Worlds for Teams. And for this example we need a server. So here's a client, which is a small file, but we also need a server. This can be found on the Environment Interface Standard, or EYS hub, on GitHub, github.com/EYS hub. And here we see, for example, Boxworld for Teams, but also all of the other environments that we created to use with Goal, like StarCraft. So we go here, we go to releases and download the latest server. As this file is a bit larger, we don't embed it in the plugin. So let's bypass the overreactive virus scanner. There's no harm in this file. And open it once it's done fully scanning it. I'll show you the multi-agent specification. There's one agent called Robot with 3 modules in its main event, as I discussed in the previous video. And so this agent will connect to the entity in the environment, which I'll show you in a bit, but that's what this means. When any entity, that's what star means, is launched, when any entity appears, then launch the robot, which is this agent. And above here are just some initialization settings for the environment, which we are, for example, there's only one agent. So the environment started, you might get a firewall warning when it does this, so then allow it access so it can communicate on localhost. So this is kind of a search and rescue simulation. And we can now see the blocks, the colored blocks in the rooms, but the agents can't. And their task is to retrieve the blocks in this order. I'll reset it so with a bit more nice order. So in this order, all blocks have to be found and brought back from the rooms to this drop zone here. So an agent can go into a room, and only then can it see, there are 3 blocks here of different colors. And for example, okay, I need the orange one, so I'll take it back. And you can do this one agent, multiple agents, but for now we'll stick to one. So as an example, let's just run one agent. So again, we can right-click the file, run as Goal, and then the agent will start moving in the environment. This agent, we can show it in the main module, is very simple because it just says, okay, if I'm not traveling right now and I want to be somewhere, then I go somewhere. And by default, you can see in the init module, it wants to be in each room it knows of, which that's done now, and then it will terminate. So this is the very basic example that is included in the project, along with some code to update the state of the agent and where it is located. But I won't go into details about this. So this was the run mode. And as you can see, there's quite some output here. Empty cycles in which the agent did nothing, but also some cycles in which it did anything. So the first very basic thing is that it can adjust this output. So if you go to Window, Preferences, Goal, and then Logging, you can see everything that is logged here. So for example, if you don't want to see that this cycle thing, we can disable it. If we don't want to see goals that have been achieved, we can disable it. So when we apply this, reset the environment. And if I run it again, we will only see the output we selected appear without all the empty cycles. So you can see, for example, it updates when it's in a room, and then it will go to the next room and the next room in quite an arbitrary order. This is some very basic debugging you can already do. What you also can do is even, again, basic logging debugging, nothing fancy. Add log statements. Reset the environment. Run the agent. I'm actually using the wrong command because log means log to file, which is an advanced feature. There's now in the Goal folder, there's a file, but here I should say print. And reset it. See, now I'll see hello after each performed action. So again, some very basic mechanisms. As you may have noticed, there's also a debug mode, which you can select for the multi-agent system file. So let's do that now. So you might think that nothing happens. This is a bit annoying. It's a default Eclipse feature that when a program is running, we'll just see the output, but not actually switch to the debug perspective. In some other examples, the agent will start paused, and then it will actually ask you to switch to this perspective, or you can do it automatically. Now, see, when an agent is killed, it will ask me to switch to the debug perspective. You can say, remember this and switch. And then above in the top right here, we will have these two perspectives, or three if you count the Java one. Let's stay in this debug view and relaunch the agent. Terminate and relaunch. So you see now the agent will start running again, and we can, for example, by clicking on the robot and clicking pause here, pause it. Now let's see what's going on. First of all, right below this window, we can see current line of code that's being evaluated in green. So just by chance, we stopped the agent in the main module at line 19, this spot here. And indeed, this is line 19. And to the right of this, we see the current evaluation of the line. Apparently, is unresolved. There is no solution. Below here, there's an advanced functionality called history. We'll turn it off for now, just close it, so we have a little bit more room for our log. Now with multiple logs, with the main console, in which some generic output is given. In this case only that we started a robot, and each robot or agent gets its own console. So we go to the robot, and then according to the settings we made in the window, we'll see all the output of this specific agent appear here. There's also an action history, which will simply list an overview of each agent and each actions it performed. So our agent now went to room A1, A2, and A3, or at least tried to. Again, in the preferences goal logging, we can turn this off, for example, show action history, or show console agent. If you want a single console back, we can also do it. So again, as you can see, a lot can be tweaked here. There are also some settings to tweak here, but these are more advanced settings, which I don't recommend changing. Here at the top right, you see the current agent state. Again, make sure the agent is selected, because for example, if you select the environment, you won't see anything here. Now I have to select the agent, or even where it stopped, because we can't see this when it's running, because it would be changing all the time. We can only see it when the agent is paused. You can see the agent beliefs. So here are all the zone beliefs. In this example, the zones signify each block on the screen. So these are zones, the rooms are zones, etc. These show in order in which they were added. So the zones were all added upon initialization. And we can see that at this point, the agent thinks it's in state traveling in room A3, which sort of matches with the agent, but I'll talk about that later. We can also search here, for example, search for the in. And we can switch to the other states, like what is the goal? So these are the remaining rooms we want to be in. Look at the percepts, which is the current information coming in from the environment. You see some more information here, which is not used by our agent right now, but which is passed by the environment, by the Blockspot for Teams environment. For example, that we're standing at or near block 38, which we can see apparently is a red block. And also we're at or near block 40, but not near the blue one. Just too far away probably from that block. And if we would have multiple agents, we could see here in the mails section the messages that these agents would be sending each other. So there's more information on debugging in the Goal Eclipse manual. Again, if you go to the Goal Wiki tutorials and here the Goal Eclipse user manual, you can download it. Go to the debugging section There's much more information, including a whole diagram about the stepping debugger. I'll show it quickly. So for example, there are 3 step actions here. So the basic one is step into it by pressing F5 on your keyboard. You can go to the next line of code. So in this case, it's the event module, because the main module didn't do anything, but we got new percept information from the environment. So this new percept information says that our new state is arrived instead of traveling, which matches with the environment. We have arrived in the room. We'll update that and go to our main module again. And now this rule has some evaluation. We can see that there are many evaluations which apply because we have all these goals. So in this case, no further options here, which like we can put an order option and many settings how this is resolved, but by default it will get the first one, which will be B1. So if you press F5 again, we'll see that we'll go to execute the go-to action with B1 or room B1. So this is the access specification file. We'll check the post condition, which in this case, we'll check the precondition, which in this case is true. So yeah, nothing to check. And now we'll actually execute the action. And you'll see that even though the agent is passed, the entity to which it's connected in the environment will actually already move. Because again, once the precondition has been checked, the agent will actually send the action to the environment, to the Blockshot for Teams entity, and it will start doing it. So this signifies the difference between, for example, debug and run mode already, because if you run, the timing will be very different than when you step. Because now, for example, here we will still say that we believe we are arrived in room A3. The agent still believes this because it's not at the stage yet where it received new information from the environment. But in the environment, the agent is already actually in room B1. Now, in this very simple environment, we might have been able to synchronize the agent with the goal agent, but there's very basic principle which we don't want to violate, because in more realistic examples, such as the real world, working with robots, or playing StarCraft, the other players, or even other robots in this environment, if we would have them, won't wait when you're passed. The world goes on, the simulation goes on, etc. Again, we can keep pressing F5 to see what the code is doing. And we'll see we'll now update it. We are actually in room A3. Or sorry, we are no longer in room A3, but we are in room B1. We achieve the goal, and we go to a new place. If I'm done looking at these steps, I can just press play here again, and the robot will continue, like it usually does, with all the output appearing here live. Until it's done. Okay, so one final feature I show you. Let's terminate and relaunch again. Past the agent is the interactive console. So here you can query specific things. So for example, if you want to know very quickly what is the current state of the agent, you can query it. The robot will say, okay, X is traveling. Again, make sure that you actually selected the robot here in this screen. So this console and everything is tied to the selection at the very top here. We can also say what is the goal. Well, there are a lot of goals. So if there's more advanced things and this list of beliefs and such becomes very big, this query window is very useful. Or if you want to say, hey, why are there no solutions? You can check each part of the rule. So here we'll see there are no solutions because you want the state not to be traveling, but it is traveling. So this is very straightforward why this rule actually has no solutions. But again, in more complicated cases, querying parts of rules might be very insightful to what's going on, especially if there are no solutions. So this was a very quick overview of the goal agent debugging features. I hope it was useful. And again, if you have any questions, please don't be afraid to ask them in the comments below this video. Thank you very much.